Welcome back. Well, it's the first full day of the election campaign, but has it really started until we've heard from Patrick Gorman and Jason Falinski? Some would argue it has. I'm firmly in the no column on that one. Gentlemen, great to have you. We've been, foxing on the faux campaign for so long, so now it begins proper. You've each got 30 seconds. Jason, you're the government. You can go first. Why do you deserve re-election?
Because, Tom, when it comes to the pressures facing working families, Australians who've worked hard all their lives to save for their retirement, and young Australians who want to own their home, this government has plans around cost of living, around increasing home ownership and making housing more affordable, and ensuring that our national defence is both safe and secure so we can protect ourselves as well as those people who would be our friends. And of course, we have a solution for climate change, not a slogan, and that's called net zero.
Patrick, your response?
Australians deserve a better future. Coming out of this pandemic, we know that we need a government with the plans.
But it is for your leader, Anthony Albanese. Stay with us, you two will come back. Here's the Labor leader.
I won't blame someone else. I'll accept responsibility. That's what leaders do.
Do you know what the figures are?
Yeah, it's 0.1 is the cash rate, which is very different from the interest rate that people pay, of course, and 4% is the unemployment rate.
All right, we might try to turn around the top of that, but essentially he was cleaning up after this morning's mistake on interest rates and also the unemployment rate. So he was clarifying what the numbers are. Look, just to make sure we're getting this all in context,
He's going to walk past.
let's play for you what happened this morning when in particular Anthony Albanese was asked about the unemployment rate. Let's have a look.
Albanese has chosen to begin his campaign.
Andrew.
What's the national unemployment rate?
National unemployment rate at the moment is, I think it's 5.4. Sorry, I'm not sure what it is.
Patrick Gorman, what were your thoughts when you saw that?
Well, Tom, I am going to say, because you gave Jason the opportunity, I'm going to say what I think this election is about. This election is about people choosing whether they want a better future. And what we've just seen is the sort of Prime Minister that Anthony Albanese will be, the sort of Prime Minister who shows up when the going gets tough, admits his mistakes, moves on and brings the conversation back to what matters to working families across Australia. Secure jobs, growing wages, making sure that our oldest and most vulnerable Australians get the aged care they want and that we support working families with cheaper childcare and protecting Medicare. I actually think this is a great demonstration today of Anthony Albanese's character.
The whole day was great, was it? What about the first moment that we played you just then?
There are going to be mistakes on this campaign, Tom. He's not the first or the last politician to make a mistake. But what is different, and I think your viewers know this, is I don't believe Scott Morrison would admit such a mistake. He wouldn't do that nearly as quickly. In fact, we've seen time and time again him pretend not to make mistakes. The classic for us West Australians is how he conducted himself with Clive Palmer in the High Court. He's never admitted that that was a mistake. Okay. He's never said sorry. In fact, he just wrote a cheque for $1 million.
It's a bit more than a number because unemployment is crucial. Labor set the test of unemployment during COVID, and it also relates to whether wages might actually go up, where the NAIRU actually is. So it's not just a figure. It's so fundamental to what we're talking about. Don't you get why voters would be having a raised eyebrow at getting this so wrong? 5.4 versus 4%? It's
4%, Tom. It's a fact. We're not. And in terms of what I know is important to voters in my electorate, it's about whether their wages are going up. It's about whether their job is secure, and they're the things that we will continue to talk about for the next 40 days. Simple as that.
Okay, we've got the full version of his mea culpa. Let's just play that for our viewers before I talk to Jason.
Earlier today, I made a mistake. I'm human. But when I make a mistake, I'll fess up to it and I'll set about correcting that mistake. I won't blame someone else. I'll accept responsibility. That's what leaders do.
Do you know what the figures are?
Yeah, it's 0.1 is the cash rate, which is very different from the interest rate that people pay, of course, and 4% is the unemployment rate.
Jason Falinski, he does seem to be better at the S word than the Prime Minister.
Look, Tom, all I can say is that my heart went out to Anthony Albanese today when he was asked a question he didn't know the answer to. But I think you're right. I mean, the core of Labor's pitch to Australian voters is more jobs and higher wages. And if you don't know the unemployment rate, if you don't know that it's 4%, if you don't know that the budget says that it will go to 3.7%, if you don't know that there are 1 million more Australians in work today than there were when the Labor Party was last in power, that kind of sounds like it's a political slogan rather than genuine policy at driving up the livelihoods of working Australian families.
So is it the most embarrassing moment since Scott Morrison didn't know the price of petrol, bread or milk?
Look, I think you know, there will be plenty more embarrassing moments. Patrick and my job is to make sure none of them happen here.
I was going to say, I thought you were
Let's
going to
agree
say
on that.
to clean up after them. A bit of both. But yeah, so is that fair enough to say, Jason? I mean, that was not the finest moment for the team at the National Press Club.
Yeah, Tom, as I say, right up the front. I mean, Pat, how many times have you and I been on camera and someone's asked us a question? I mean, the last time it happened to me, I was with Anne Ali on camera and she asked me, you know, we increased JobSeeker by $9.5 billion. And she asked me what that meant per fortnight in terms of payments. And my mind just went blank. I mean, the answer is $50. But you know, it happens to all of us where we just get caught out with a number that we don't have at our fingertips. There are a lot of statistics going around. But I go back to the point I think you're trying to make, or you are making. I'm not trying to. You've done it quite successfully, Tom, to be fair, which is that, you know, if the centrepiece of your campaign are more jobs at higher wages and you don't know what the unemployment rate is, it makes some people think that it's more a slogan than a policy.
All right. Well, there you go. We've had the first sort of, I suppose, significant moment of the campaign on that first full day. Look, always good to get honest thoughts. That's why, Jason and Pat, you really cut through to the Australian people. And one day it will be the Falinski-Gorman campaign we'll be talking to. Oh, maybe we'll still do the panel then. We'll see. I will insist.
I will insist.
Good. I want to play some vision of a political advertisement. I'm probably not meant to do this. You're probably meant to pay for this. But this is Jason trying to get re-elected in Mackellar. Pat, you had homework for this panel and you were supposed to watch this. Does this make you more likely to vote for Jason Falinski in what was supposed to be a safe seat?
Well, look, I'll admit I have a friendship with Jason that is thanks to you, Tom. So I would find it hard to vote against Jason, but I would do it for the Labor Party. And what struck me about that ad, which is quite beautiful, and it's a nice sharing of Jason's story, and I think he's done incredibly well making his parliamentary committee work sound interesting. And he worked that into the ad, which I commend him for. But what really struck me was, how come Jason has a better ad than the Prime Minister? I just think that's unfair.
Yeah, and I'm having my Anthony Albanese moment because apparently we don't have the vision. So there you go.
There you go.
Jason, this was pretty glossy though. Does this show you're actually a bit worried of winning your seat? What is it, 13-point-something%? Unthinkable to think Mackellar wouldn't be won by the Liberal Party. Does this speak to a bit of concern?
So, Pat, I think this is answer 3 or something, which is you never take any election for granted. I'm out there fighting every day. I mean, look, there is a lot of truth to that. You know, you never take any election for granted. You never take anyone for granted. You're always working hard for everyone in your community, and in particularly when it comes to elections, you just, you know, all you want is, you know, ultimately it's up to the decision that people want to make. You just want to make sure that they know all the facts that they need to know when they're making their decision. And that ad, which you've conveniently lost, Tom, and I say conveniently from my point of view because I have no doubt you were just going to make fun of me, you know, it's just one way of letting people know who I am and what I stand for and why I do what I do. All
right. Perhaps I'm jumping at shadows. Just seems maybe there'll be more action in Mackellar than we're used to, but we'll see on that front. Patrick, I want to ask you about the Labor position at the start of this campaign, though, because a lot of people would say your overall positioning of Scott Morrison, on the negatives has been quite effective. But is there enough to vote for yet for the Labor Party? Actually fleshed out policies on wages, for example. Do you need a couple of... Are we going to have some more things that people are going to vote for rather than just against?
Well, the election is, formal election campaign is just 24 hours old. So, of course, there'll be a lot more policy that comes out between now and election day. What we have already put forward is the most experienced parliamentarian to stand as Prime Minister from opposition in Anthony Albanese. We have put forward a range of policies from fixing the problems in aged care, gaining the economic benefits of acting on childcare, the most comprehensive climate change and energy policy ever put forward by an opposition, and a range of policies around secure work, giving more security for gig economy workers, giving more security for people who've been working from contract to contract.
Well, what's actually happening with
those policies out there? And
gig economy workers, though? What's actually happening on their wages, for example?
Yeah. So one of the things we've said we would legislate is to put job security as an explicit requirement in the Fair Work Act, to make sure that when the Fair Work Commission is looking at the range of benefits that people receive from their work, that fair work is right at the heart of decision making. And so that goes to people on dodgy labour hire contracts, it goes to people who are jumping from contract to contract, and of course it goes to people who work in the gig economy. We're realists, we know that the gig economy is here to
How
stay.
that actually works, though. So we're talking about an Uber driver. They get more things around guaranteed per hour rates, and if that happens, that people are going to pay more for an Uber. I mean, is that how it all works?
No.
Jason's right. No, it doesn't work exactly like that. What we've said is that when we're setting the conditions of employment, when Fair Work is doing that work, they will have to consider the importance of job security. Because what we know is the idea that people who work, be it for Uber, Uber Eats, Deliveroo, etc., the idea that they can basically be dismissed on these sort of zero-hour contracts or dismissed with practically no notice, I don't think that sits right with the Australian people. And so we need a government that's actually going to get in there and say, if you're doing this important work for our economy, indeed, the last 2 years of the pandemic have showed us just how much we rely on the delivery and gig economy.
Saw a lot of head shaking there. Do you think the gig economy is working well right now?
Look, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, Tom, but it is working well. And what the Labor Party is seeking to do is to take contract work out of the area of contract and bring it into the Fair Work Commission, because that's where unions are. And what we have seen since Julia Gillard introduced the Fair Work Act is we've seen real wage increases decline to very low levels. The fact of the matter is that under the Howard government, you saw real wage increases at massively, well, much, much higher levels than you are seeing it under the centralised system of the Fair Work Commission.
Jason, you've been in government for 9 years. I mean, don't blame Labor for your government's low wage growth.
Yeah, and that's not, and that's not an unfair point. And to which I'll respond, Pat, by saying we tried to make 5 pretty simple changes to the Fair Work Act. I mean, they weren't controversial, and frankly, Tony Burke went out there and opposed all 5. We managed to only get 1 passed in the Senate. I mean, it's like...
But when the coalition came into power, Jason, which was, I think, slightly before your time in politics here, it was actually talking about, worried about wages going up too much. And you're saying wages would...
When we were ever worried about wages going up too much? I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you look at the Howard government's period in government versus the Hawke-Keating period and the Gillard-Rudd period, Australian workers have enjoyed much higher wage increases under the Liberal Party than they have under the Labor Party.
All right, we're going to leave it there.
Scott Morrison.
I'll send you
Scott Morrison is up for election, and we haven't seen high
recollection.
wage growth under Scott Morrison.
Patrick, Jason, good to kick off. We'll see you next Monday, and I don't think we'll have any gaffes to report in the campaigns. Look at that, he's got the hat, except for me not having the vision of your campaign. So there you go. It would have been free advertising. It's good we didn't have it. When we come back,
$9.95.